Hey everyone, welcome back to more Reddit stories about entitled people, insane people, and all that kind of stuff. It's time to read about some more seriously unhinged people, so let's get into it. Karen neighbor is escalating to endangering my children, and I'm so close to going nuclear. Moved into a house, renting, in February. Smaller front yard, just enough to put a small kiddie pool out front and watch my kids play through the big front window during the summer, with some room to run around. Lots of privacy bushes along the perimeter. So far, I've bought a push manual lawnmower, hedge trimmer, and a big electric trimmer that looks like a chainsaw. The house is owned by a no-face who goes through a property management. This property management is trash and never responds except once when our AC went out in 110-degree weather. Other than that, silence. We are moving out of this house in February because we are fed up. In the meantime, I've been maintaining the yard religiously because it's clear all the neighbors put great effort in keeping the street and yards looking clean and well-maintained. When we first moved in, there was snowfall covering the entire yards. When the snow melted in late February, I found tons of dog crap underneath. I knew the house was empty for many months, so assumed someone was letting their dog crap in the yard for a while since no one was living here. I got it all cleaned up and got the grass back to life. I had a beautiful green yard for my kiddos to play in for a while. In May, we went on a trip out of state to visit the grandparents, and when we got back 3 weeks later, the neighbor, Karen, went off about me not maintaining the lawn and yard. I explained that we were out of town, and it had only been 3 weeks. She huffed and puffed and finally left us alone. In July, I started to notice an ugly brown patch in the lawn. She was letting her dogs pee on my side of the lawn. I confirmed this many times because I can literally see her shooing her dogs off of her lawn onto mine to pee from my big front room window. I found this pretty comical, so I let it be. I don't care too much about the lawn. Well, it's now been a few months of this, and the brown spot has taken over 60% of my yard and has spread to her yard by about 5%. She's pissed and tried to blame it on me. I just smiled and nodded while she offered me expensive ways to fix it. I honestly just ignore her. My kids don't play in the yard as often anymore, and I have a much smaller amount of grass to mow every week, so oh well. Well, I had an unexpected abdominal surgery 2.5 weeks ago. I hadn't mowed in a little over a week before my surgery, so my yard hasn't been done in almost a month. I finally felt up to doing a little trimming here and there and found 5 huge piles of dog crap specifically on the green parts of my lawn that remain, with new brown spots starting. I kept cool, picked it all up, and threw it in her garbage bin. I got my lawnmower out and started to mow, and guess what I found? Mouse traps. Meticulously hidden in only the green parts of my grass where the kids play. The kind that snaps shut with the nail when triggered. I can only take this as her wanting to purposefully harm my children. Edit. Ordered wireless cameras that I can hide in my Halloween decorations. I will be speaking with the neighbors and filing a police report in the morning. I have no proof it was her, but I want it documented just in case her dogs get hurt and that was her plan all along. I'll have the report to hopefully prove it wasn't me who put them there and that I've actively removed them. I talked to my kids about there being booby traps outside, and we are on a mission to find out who the bad guy is, and to never go out without shoes. I didn't want to lie to them. I need them to take it seriously that they could get hurt, but also didn't want to scare them and tell them the neighbor was crazy. They seem to understand the gravity of it. Neighbor put up cameras pointing into my bathroom and bedroom. Having a bit of a land dispute with my neighbor, where she claims a fence that the previous owner of my property built is hers. She claims she had a land survey done but refuses to show anyone, so I still believe it's mine. Her only real claim is that her plumbing runs under it. I don't give much of a crap about the fence, so I have been pretty laid back about it and haven't made it a huge problem. Well, cut to yesterday, and she put up 5 signs saying it's her fence, to keep off it, and if we touch it, it's trespassing. She also installed 4 cameras around her house. 2 of them point directly into my yard and driveway. She had previously put a camera up, which I called bylaw about, and they told her she can't have any cameras pointing into anyone else's yard. Now she has done it again, but this one also swivels and has a light on it. I talked to the cops and they said, we will talk with her. They talked with her and surprise, it's still there. I have had enough of her games. It's been 2 months. Update. Yeah, I'm done. I went to the police and they told me she could have the cameras up, and the sign pointing into our yard saying, no trespassing, C-word. Also talked to the city and the fence is on my property. 3 of her cameras and lights are on my fence, Yet bylaw says there is nothing we can do. I don't feel safe in my own home, and I can no longer open my windows without her seeing directly into my bathrooms and bedroom. Bylaw is useless. The RCMP is useless. Canadian police. I need to escalate this. I am pretty pissed off, and since the police aren't willing to do anything, I'm considering doing something myself. When I talked to bylaw, they told me I couldn't face the floodlight at her cameras, yet she has 3 lights facing into my yard, and now 6 cameras pointed at my house. Make it make sense. Final update, hopefully. I did what the comments said, and I put up a 2x4 with plywood, with 2 lights and wind chimes, to block her camera. I got 3 other neighbors that have had issues with her, and we all hung out in my yard and built it. I'll be going to their place to help build one there too. She came running out screaming while on the phone with the RCMP. She told them I was drilling into her retaining wall, which was never brought up that it could even be hers. It's clearly in my property. And 4 officers came out within 5 minutes. She yelled at the officers the entire time while one officer came and talked to me and the other neighbors. They stated that they can't do anything about the sign or cameras, but that I can and should go to the city and take it to court, so I will be. The officer was incredibly polite and thoroughly explained what I can and can't do. So if you are in BC dealing with something similar, here's what the officers told me is allowed. You can have cameras pointing into your neighbor's yard, but any cameras pointing into windows is considered voyeurism, and you can be taken to court over it. You are allowed floodlights and you can block cameras all you like. For the cameras on my fence, she has been told to take them down, and if she doesn't, I can go ahead and take them down without damaging them and place them on her doorstep. As for the damage to the fence, that is up to the court to decide. Laser pointers or anything else that can potentially damage the cameras are not allowed. I will be placing cameras all around my property, with some looking directly into her backyard. Was given the green light by the RCMP. Bullies. My boss refused to call an ambulance for an injured coworker. This situation happened at the elementary school where I teach back in September. It's been a few months since it happened. On the first day of school, one of my fellow teachers tripped and fell backwards down the concrete steps leading up to the entrance of the school as she was arriving that morning. She split the back of her head open. As the school nurse was assessing the situation, our principal came running over and demanded that the injured teacher be helped to her feet and walked into the school, quote, so the parents and students wouldn't see her as they begin to arrive for school. The principal then told everyone who witnessed the incident that they were forbidden to call an ambulance because she did not want to create a scene and scare the kids or worry the parents. The injured teacher was kept in the principal's office with a wad of paper towels on her head for almost half an hour, until most of the kids had been dropped off for the day and the buses had arrived. Then the nurse was finally allowed to call someone to take the teacher to the hospital, but it had to be a family member, not EMS. Several phone calls later, the nurse was finally able to get in touch with the teacher's sister-in-law, who came to pick her up and drive her to the hospital. All in all, it was over an hour between her injury and arriving at the hospital, which is ridiculous because the school is right up the street from the fire department, so an ambulance could have gotten there super quickly, and the hospital is only 10 to 15 minutes away, so she literally could have gotten to the hospital in under 20 minutes. It turns out she had a concussion, no surprise there, and she needed 8 stitches in her head. To my knowledge, she did not lose consciousness, but she says she was in such a daze that she went along with what the principal decided, instead of advocating for herself. I don't think she was able to really even speak. She missed a week and a half of work and had residual headaches for a month or so afterward. We were all flabbergasted that our principal chose to keep her hidden in an office with a head injury until the right time to get her to the hospital. The teacher probably should not have even been moved in the first place, and an injury to the head should be treated immediately regardless of the scene it might create. Our principal can also be very intimidating, and her decisions override the nurse's decisions. We're all very concerned that she chose to put the appearances of the school ahead of the safety of an injured teacher. I know what she was probably thinking. These parents won't leave me alone if they see an ambulance here. They'll think the school isn't safe for their children, etc. And I understand not wanting these helicopter parents breathing down your neck, but this teacher could have had a much worse spinal or head injury than she did, and it shouldn't be up to the principal to decide when her staff warrants emergency medical care. We were all shaken after this incident and worried that if someone else were to get injured in the future, it would be handled in a similar way. Jokes have been made like, hey, be careful carrying that box of books. If you drop it on your foot, you won't be allowed to use crutches because it might look bad to the parents. Things like that. Some people say she just made a bad judgment call, probably due to first day of school anxiety, but I worry it speaks more to her priorities than anything. Update. It's been a little over 2 years since I wrote about this incident. First, the update about the injured teacher. To my knowledge, she never got the union involved despite what everybody recommended. At the end of the school year, she was transferred to a different school within the same district. Often the principal at my school would strongly push for a teacher or staff member to be moved as a way of punishing them, but usually the person being moved was relieved and it was much more of a reward than a punishment. The teacher is much happier at the new school than she was before. Some in the comments were saying that someone should have gone over the principal's head and called 911 when the teacher fell, but most of us didn't even know about the incident until later that day. We were all involved in other first day of school activities, so the principal was successful in hiding the incident from most of us initially. One of the few people who knew right away what happened was the school nurse, whom the principal bullied into silence in the moment. I am not justifying her decision not to call 911, but the principal has a way of making your life miserable if you don't do exactly what she wants, and few people have ever stood up to her. It was a very oppressive environment to work in. The principal retired at the end of the school year. I am given to understand that the superintendent wasn't a huge fan of her and was encouraging her to retire. The new school principal is much more pleasant to work with. Alright guys, that's going to do it for today. Thank you for watching. As always, I do appreciate it. If you enjoyed, be sure to hit that like button, drop a comment down below, and subscribe if you haven't already. So take care, stay tuned for more, and I'll see you in the next one.